Hi, this is Eden Sunshine, founder of the Level 7 system. I'd like to welcome you back to the series on implementing Level 7 within your organization. Today's video is entitled The Principle of Facilitating Compliance. I want you to imagine for a second that you've gone through this process of fully developing systems within your organization, that you have well-defined procedures and processes on how you do everything. You've developed these tools so well that everyone in your organization is highly effective at producing the results that they're accountable for producing. In other words, you've created an incredible turnkey, high-performing, consistently performing organization. And you've got all of these resources available to you, and yet you're not confident that the people that are responsible for using these tools are going to use them. Imagine handing a hammer to someone and saying, we'd like to use this tool to hammer in these nails because, quite frankly, it's the most effective tool that we have. And next thing you know, you see them using a rock. Well, there seems to be a problem, a permeating problem in a business, and it's what I call a big pink elephant in the room that nobody's ever talking about. And this topic is accountability. And in fact, in order to have a high-performing business, we have to have a conversation about what accountability means. We have to have a conversation about what it means to truly build trust with one another, that we can count on each and every person in our organization to follow through with the things that they've committed to do. Now, perhaps your organization is made up of people where you're consistent about following through most of the time. In fact, most businesses are. We have a way of self-prioritizing those things that we deem to be most important. But self-prioritizing won't work within a systems-driven environment, because if you have a system in your business, then we're going to assume that it's relevant to producing the results in your organization. In other words, we can't handpick the systems that we're going to operate and say, well, this system is important and this one is not. If you make that decision that this system is not important, then my question for you is, why does that system exist in your business? And the fact is, everything that you do in your business is going to produce a result within your organization. Now, some of those results may be highly critical or more critical results to a specific outcome, like I better show up to this sales call today because they're expecting me to be there and there's a big order on the way, versus the system for how we order stock for your organization. Yes, indeed, you may determine that one of those systems deems higher priority than the other. But when does ordering stock become a higher priority over another system? I hope you're catching my drift here, that ultimately what I'm saying is this, that it's very, very difficult to create an environment where people are self-prioritizing what's important and what's not important. But what is important is that when somebody says they're going to do something in the organization, that we can count on them to do it. So the principle of facilitating compliance is all about creating an environment where we can count on each other to follow through 100% of the time in the commitments or the promises, if you will, that we make with one another. We promise we're going to follow this system. We promise we're going to complete this assignment on time. We told our client we're going to get this job to them by Friday at 5 o'clock. That's an expectation that we have. They should be able to count on us to follow through. So as you go through this process of facilitating compliance and understanding the true nature of accountability within your organization, you're going to be addressing this very specifically. How can we create an environment where we have absolute certainty and confidence that each and every person in the business is going to follow through with the things that they commit to following through to, regardless of the level of priority of those items, but we simply can count on people to follow through with what they say. And as you explore the process and understand more about the policy, you'll understand that there are instances where we need to ask for exceptions, that somebody may ask us to do a task and we just find that because of certain circumstances come up, we're unable to complete that task. So what does that mean to your organization? Does that mean you blow the task off and completely disregard it? Or does it simply mean that you communicate to that person that you committed to that you would indeed, that you needed an exception or needed to reestablish a date or a due date for that work that they had promised? One quick example that I might leave you with is simply this. If you invited me to dinner, me and my wife to come over on a Friday evening, and you considered it a big event, and so you went to all out to create this great meal, and you're expecting us to be there at 7 o'clock and we simply didn't show up, how disappointed you might be, but you also might consider me to be unreliable in that. And perhaps on Monday we talked and you asked, hey Eden, what happened? I never heard about you Friday. And I said something like, oh yeah, I got busy. I realized on Wednesday that I probably wouldn't be able to make it. How unreliable you would have considered me to be to not give you the courtesy of calling. But imagine on Wednesday if I had called and said, hey, listen, can't make it to dinner on Friday night. Can we do it another time? I'm sure you would have considered and interpreted me very, very differently. And imagine all the situations in business where that actually happens, where people perhaps get busy and they simply don't follow through with tasks that may or may not be relevant to them, but perhaps very critical to another person. So again, the principle of facilitating compliance is creating an environment where we can truly trust in one another, that we have quality in terms of our expectations and follow through, and ultimately building an environment of high quality teamwork. This has been Eden Sunshine, founder of the Level 7 system. Thanks again for joining me in this series on implementing Level 7 in your business.